For 36 years, Margaret Evans couldn't enter the barn. Her husband, Thomas, forbade it. After his funeral, she broke her promise. What she found inside brought her to her knees. The old house stood resolute on the edge of a Kansas prairie, where winds swept the fields and the sky stretched endlessly. It was modest, a single-story home with peeling paint, a creaky porch and a sagging mailbox. To Margaret, it was a new start, a quiet life traded from Chicago's bustle for soil and silence. The vastness initially unnerved her, but she grew to love the house as a place for roots. At its heart was Thomas. Thomas Evans was reserved, broad-shouldered, hands stained with grease from his mechanic job 15 miles away. He wasn't outwardly affectionate, no grand gestures, but he was steady, checking tires before trips, home by 7 as promised. Their love unfolded slowly, built on routines. Morning coffee, shared glances over dinner, her hand on his shoulder when his back ached. But one part of their life remained off-limits, the barn. Behind the house, past overgrown garden beds, stood a weathered barn, its padlock gleaming new. Margaret never saw the key. Early on she suggested fixing it up, but Thomas cut her off. "Don't go in there. It's not safe, old tools, nails." His tone was final, his face neutral. She laughed it off, but the door between them closed, intangible but real. She told herself men needed space, but as years passed, the barn became a lingering question. She noticed Thomas slipping out at night with a flashlight, returning silently, or carrying odd packages straight to the barn. "Just tools?" he'd say when she asked. Once, she peered through a dusty window, seeing vague shapes, shelves maybe, but the darkness hid its secrets. She stopped trying, trusting him, yet the barn haunted her thoughts. Their life continued. Margaret worked at the town library, Thomas at the garage. Sundays meant church and pie at the diner. No one would suspect a locked door could create such silence between them. Her curiosity turned to something deeper, not suspicion but a sense of something older, tied to Thomas before her. She imagined a shrine to a lost love, letters, or guilt from his past. One night, on the porch under a violet sky, she asked, "Why can't I see it?" He sipped his beer, staring out. "I'm not ready to share," he said. "Maybe never." His voice held finality, not anger, protecting something she couldn't grasp. They tried for children, but years of tests and specialists brought only unexplained infertility. The grief was quiet, unspoken. Margaret kept a box of baby clothes, a onesie, socks, hidden in the closet, touching them when hope faded. Thomas never blamed her, but his silence felt distant, like the barn. She longed for him to share the pain, but he remained out of reach. The barn loomed larger, a symbol of their unspoken losses. By her 37th summer, the heat was relentless, the fields browning early. The distance between them grew, not sudden but like a shoreline eroding. Thomas withdrew, disappearing into the barn after dinner, offering vague answers, "Just cleaning." Once, Margaret pressed her hand to the barn door, feeling its warmth, dreading what lay behind. The silence between them had edges now. On their 12th anniversary, Thomas brought home a diner cake. They ate in the kitchen and for a moment, it felt like before. But his tiredness was deeper, not just physical. "Do you ever wonder what it would have been like?" she asked in bed. "Every day," he replied, staring at the ceiling. Signs of illness appeared. Thomas rubbed his back, ate less, paled. Margaret urged a doctor's visit. He resisted, calling it age. When his shirts hung loose and he winced in pain, she booked the appointment. At the Lincoln Clinic, the diagnosis came: pancreatic cancer, advanced, inoperable. Time collapsed. Thomas refused treatment, wanting to stay home, not in a hospital. Margaret became his caretaker, managing medications, helping him move, reading to him at night. His decline was swift yet slow. One day he gripped her wrist on the porch. "Don't go in the barn," he said, eyes full of sorrow. "Promise me even after I'm gone." She nodded, bitter but compliant. "I kept it for us," he whispered later, drifting off. Thomas died in his sleep, his hand in hers. The funeral was small, the house silent after. The barn drew her gaze, its mystery unbearable. She found a key in his nightstand days later but hesitated, bound by her promise. One morning, coffee in hand, she stared at the barn, Thomas's tenderness in his final days echoing. The promise felt like a chain. She walked to the barn, key in hand, and unlocked the door. The scent was dust, wood, and honeyed paper. Light slanted through slats, revealing not tools but a nursery. Children's drawings lined the walls, stick figures, a lopsided sun, words, "For Mom and Dad, I love you." A bookshelf held picture books, plush toys, a battered teddy bear. A crib stood in the corner, painted white, with a knitted blanket and stuffed elephant. Margaret sank to her knees, a sob escaping. On a table was a notebook, Diary of a Father, in Thomas's handwriting. "I built the crib today," he wrote, "hoping you could happen. Your mother doesn't know." Every nail was hope. He described imagined milestones, first steps, bedtime stories, naming the child Ben or Grace. "I hear your laughter in the wind," he wrote. "I'm sorry I couldn't make you real." The barn wasn't a secret to hurt her but a sanctuary for his grief, a dream too fragile to share. Margaret returned daily, reading his words, touching the toys. She added her own memories, a doll, a photo, making it theirs. The community noticed her change. Neighbors smiled brighter. The librarian offered her a story hour role. She volunteered at a foster agency, reading to children, feeling connection, not replacement. A hidden box of papers listed imagined names, Emma, Orion, each with traits like love stars. She placed them in a jar, a tribute. The barn became a sanctuary, not of loss but of love. Margaret hung curtains, read aloud from the books, wrote to the child they never had. She signed up to chaperone a foster outing, feeling ready for new light. One evening, a child climbed into her lap at a town puppet show, leaning against her. She held him, feeling presence, not pain. In the barn that night she wrote, "You were loved. You're loved. That makes you real." The barn's door stayed open, its light spilling out, no longer a secret but a shared dream, alive under the Kansas sky.